Welcome back to another episode of Rock Boys Football. Massive SEC matchup going down Saturday afternoon. Missouri heading on the road to play Texas A&M. Now we're going to get into some things that I think Missouri can do to pull the upset on Texas A&M, but I think most college football fans who are listening to this know this is not necessarily a massive upset. You look at this game, I think this is a definition of a toss-up game. If this game is played at Missouri, Missouri's probably catching 2.5 points as favorites. But nonetheless, I do think there are some things for Missouri to do that can give Texas A&M some problems on both sides of the football. Fired up to get into this one. You look at both of these programs and say Missouri, the Missouri fans who've been rocking with the boys going back to the offseason know this was a college football playoff team of mine. I still believe that. But I think the Missouri fans would be the first ones to admit they haven't necessarily looked like a college football playoff team throughout the first 4 weeks. Then you look at Texas A&M and say, all right, tough loss at home against Notre Dame week one. You've won four straight. Marcel Reed, although has not been perfect, and we're going to talk about Marcel Reed a lot in this episode, has unquestionably injected some dynamic playmaking into this Texas A&M offense. So I think this offense is extremely exciting to break down. Fired up to get into this one now. Before we do, and as always, just want to say thank you to you guys. It's been a blast taking deep dives into all of these matchups. The amount of support y'all continue to show means the absolute world. If you guys do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel. And without further ado, let's get into this one, and let's start with this Missouri defense going up against the Texas A&M offense that, has this young, dynamic quarterback in Marcel Reed that can make a lot of plays that, quite frankly, just make your jaw drop, but also looks like a redshirt freshman at time. Let's get into what I think is something Missouri is going to look to do, and that is send pressure. Now, this is a common talking point for a lot of college football fans. We got to blitz, 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 blitz. Look, there are certain teams you don't want to blitz on. I think Texas A&M is one of those teams where you would like to send a little pressure, and it starts with the quarterback Marcel Reed. There's a couple of reasons why I think Missouri should be sending pressure, but it starts with Marcel Reed. Arkansas brought some heat, and when Marcel Reed was blitzed in that football game on Saturday, he was 4'10", 32 yards, and took 2 sacks. I think it's pretty clear that when Marcel Reed sees pressure, that's when you get that redshirt freshman quarterback that hasn't played a ton of football. He drops his eyes, looks to do a little too much, is not always great kind of identifying where pressure is coming from and where to get the football out when I'm hot. Like that so if you were to blitz a veteran quarterback that has some difference makers on the outside and you're leaving some one-on-one matchups because you're sending pressure and you got a veteran quarterback that knows where to go with the football, that's probably a team that you don't want to blitz on. Marcel Reed, I think, hasn't shown that ability yet in his young career to really handle pressure all that well. I mean, he was 4'10" for only 32 yards Saturday against Arkansas, but take a look on the season, only a 44% completion percentage in total. I think Marcel Reed's clearly not as good of a quarterback when he's facing certain blitz packages. But I think, secondly, if you're Missouri, I mean, the one danger of blitzing, I think we all know this, is when you send extra bodies at the quarterback, you are giving up some matchups on the perimeter. This is where I think that Missouri is comfortable. I think one of the knocks on Texas A&M is I just don't think you've seen a ton from the pass catchers on the outside in terms of playmaking and separation. And you've seen some good things from guys like Cyrus Allen. You've seen some good things from guys like Noah Thomas. But I think on aggregate, I don't think Texas A&M's wide receivers are necessarily injecting a ton of fear into this Missouri defense, especially when you look at Missouri and say, yeah, they lost some cornerbacks from last year, but guys like Norwood, Torino Pride, they've been really, really good to start the 2024 season. I think if you're Missouri, you're okay leaving your cornerbacks on islands against these Texas A&M wide receivers. Now, the one caveat, I should say, to blitzing here is that when you do send pressure, you want to make sure you keep a guy like Marcel Reed in the pocket and don't let him burn you with his legs. Because when you're sending pressure, you're probably going man coverage on the outside. If Marcel Reed is able to avoid pressure, get outside the pocket, look, these Missouri defensive backs, they have their eyes turned. They're looking at the wide receivers they're covering. That's when Marcel Reed will have the opportunity to beat you. And so if you're going to send pressure, you got to make sure you're getting to Marcel Reed and not letting him extend plays. And I think secondly, I don't think you're too afraid of Marcel Reed pushing the ball down the field. He's only 3 of 17 on attempts, 20 plus yards down the field. This Texas A&M team hasn't shown that consistent ability to beat you vertically down the field. So if you want to bring your safeties into the box and send some of those safeties, I don't think you're that concerned yet about Texas A&M winning vertically down the field. And where I'm sending my pressure, I'm probably sending my pressure between the A and B gaps up the middle, because you look at Marcel Reed and where he likes to scramble. He likes to scramble between the tackles, kind of be shifty between the pocket, make people miss. I also think that Texas A&M on the inside of the offensive line is dealing with some injuries. I don't think the communication is as good on the inside in pass protection. So you have the ability to give some different looks, send some pressure on the inside, and probably have a decent chance at getting a free runner or two onto Marcel Reed. And so I would look to see Missouri, and Missouri did this very well in 2023. They haven't been as aggressive in 2024. Wouldn't be surprised coming out of the bye week, you see Missouri kind of ratcheted up in terms of sending pressure on Marcel Reed, who again I think has struggled when he's seen blitzes in his young college football career. I think secondly, disciplined eyes. If you are Coach Colin Klein, you're looking at the film that we saw from when Missouri played Vanderbilt and saying this Missouri defense struggled with some of the concepts and some of the misdirection that Vanderbilt was able to throw at Missouri, most notably with a quarterback like Diego Pavia. Well, guess what? Marcel Reed can do a lot of the same things that Diego Pavia can do as an athlete. He's not as thick and big as Diego Pavia, but he's arguably a little bit more quicker and faster. Missouri struggled a little bit in terms of some of the misdirection and some of those concepts that Vanderbilt threw at him. I would not be surprised if Coach Colin Klein goes back into that Vanderbilt film and says, hey, what are some concepts that Vanderbilt ran that gave Missouri some problems on defense? What are some concepts that we can use in this football game? And you look at some of the problems that Missouri had, it largely was just eye discipline, like second level defenders losing the football, losing some of their assignments, not making plays in space. If you're Missouri, I think you're going to see some of that. You see a lot of that from Coach Colin Klein going back to his days at Kansas State in terms of misdirection, jet sweep motions. If you're Missouri, you want to have disciplined eyes. Again, I think that's been the biggest weakness of this Missouri defense thus far against Vanderbilt. You want to see that get cleaned up a little bit going on the road to Texas A&M, because I would think that, and you kind of see this, I think Coach Colin Klein and this Texas A&M offense are starting to cater the offense a little bit more around Marcel Reed, where you go back 8 months ago, Connor Wigman was the guy. We're building an offense around what Connor Wigman can do. And obviously with the injury to Connor Wigman, you're seeing Texas A&M adopt just a little bit different of an offense that leans into what Marcel Reed can do from a physical standpoint. I think you're going to see a lot of misdirection. If you're Missouri, eye discipline going to be huge. Now, going to the offensive side of the football, there's really only one key for me in this game, and that is you got to stay on schedule on first and second down, because when you get to these third and long situations against Texas A&M with this pass rush, it's really hard to move the chains. Arkansas struggled with it. You saw Texas A&M's front seven, specifically that defensive line, really emerge as being that dominant group that we all expected them to be heading into 2024. Now, I think the caveat for Missouri here is there ain't many offensive lines that can block up Texas A&M. I think Missouri has one of those offensive lines. They've been phenomenal. I think they have plenty of NFL caliber dudes on that offensive line, not many holes in the offensive line. I do think Missouri has a chance at blocking up Texas A&M, which certainly helps. But again, when you give Mike Elko and this Texas A&M defense those third and long situations, that's when they excel. Texas A&M is the number 7 defense in the country on third downs. I think the funny one is Missouri is the number 8th team in the country in terms of first to third down conversions. So you're looking at an offense that's really good on third downs. You're looking at a defense that's really good on third downs. What unit is going to win on third downs on Saturday afternoon? I think that's going to be a massive storyline. And again, why has Missouri been so good on third downs? I think it starts with staying on schedule, not getting yourself in those third and long situations where your play calling is so limited. And I think Texas A&M's been really good on third downs because they're forcing a lot of third and longs. They're creating a lot of negative plays. They're creating a lot of sacks. What team stays in that third and manageable situation better? What team can execute better on third downs? That's probably what you're looking at here. And I think lastly, just kind of a one off the cuff here. Didn't really have this one planned, but as I was watching Texas A&M, I think Brady Cook's legs are probably going to have to be a factor in this game. Now, you haven't seen a ton of Brady Cook using his legs to start the year because I don't think he's necessarily needed to. But when he needs to, like we all know Brady Cook can cook. Brady Cook can cook. I didn't mean to say that. Brady Cook can move. Now, you look at Texas A&M, especially with some of those read options. They like to crash their edges. I mean, this is an aggressive Texas A&M defensive line that likes to penetrate. If you're Missouri, I wouldn't be surprised if you see Brady Cook keep the football in some of these read options a little bit more than we're used to seeing because of how aggressive this Texas A&M defensive front is. And at the very least, if you have the ability to run your quarterback, you are putting that defense in conflict, specifically those edge defenders, slowing them down a little bit. That's something you want to do when you're playing Texas A&M because those edge rushers, led by Nick Scorton, they're dudes up front. So I wouldn't be surprised if we see Brady Cook use his legs a little bit more than we've seen throughout the 2024 season, the beginning of the 2024 season. That's what I got. This is going to be a dynamite game. It's going to be a dynamite environment. And whatever team wins this football game, like college football playoffs aspirations are going to be there. They're already there for Missouri, and they still will be there. But if you're Texas A&M, like this is the game that you have marked on your schedule. If you want to make the college football playoffs, Aggies got to get it done this Saturday. Fired up for this one. Appreciate you guys rocking with it. If y'all do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel. Talk to y'all later. Peace.